Karen thought destroying my retirement lawn was harmless fun, until she learned what happens when you mess with an electrician who knows exactly how deep concrete foundations go. For 3 long months, this entitled maniac used my corner lot as her personal shortcut. Every morning at 7:47 a.m., a white BMW X5 came screaming across my brand-new Kentucky bluegrass like she owned the place. The roar of her engine drowned out the morning birds, her tires carved trenches through my $2,000 lawn, and the smell of burning rubber mixed with my coffee like poison. I tried being civil. First, I asked her politely to stop. She laughed. Then I posted signs. She tore them down. I called the police. Civil matter, they said. What she didn't know was that I'd just learned something very interesting about where my property line ended, and where her daily route began. One strategically placed concrete post later, her BMW became an $80,000 sculpture in white and chrome. But that was just the grand finale. This is how a suburban nightmare turned into the best engineering project of my life. I'm Marcus Thompson, 52. A union electrician who spent 30 years installing power systems in hospitals, schools, and shopping malls. My specialty? Making things permanent. Underground cables, concrete foundations, steel mounts that could survive hurricanes. After decades of overtime checks, I finally bought my corner lot dream home in Millbrook Heights. My wife, Sarah, was fighting early-stage Parkinson's. She couldn't travel or tend her garden anymore, so that lawn became her sanctuary. I spent weeks perfecting it. Premium Kentucky bluegrass, underground irrigation, timers wired myself. The soil smelled like chocolate cake. The sprinklers whispered every morning, and for the first time in years, we both felt at peace. Then Karen Whitmore arrived in my life. Imagine a textbook HOA villain. Bleach blonde hair, designer sunglasses, and an ego that could block sunlight. She lived in the biggest McMansion on the block with her husband Derek, owner of Whitmore Construction, the company that built half the neighborhood. Her BMW's license plate? Karen W. The first day I saw the tire tracks, I thought it was an accident. The second day, the same. On day 3, I mounted a camera on my porch, and there she was, every morning, same time, cutting across my property to save herself a 30-second detour. I decided to introduce myself, like a normal neighbor. "Excuse me, Mrs. Whitmore, I think—" She didn't even glance up from her flower bed. "It's a free country. Maybe don't plant so close to the road if you can't handle a little traffic." I pointed toward my survey stakes. "That's my property, ma'am." She turned, smiling the kind of smile you see before a shark bites. "Are you threatening me? Because my husband built this neighborhood. I'm on the HOA board. Be very, very careful making accusations," she said very twice, like she was talking to a child. That night, while Sarah watched from the window, I sat at my kitchen table flipping through electrical code manuals. 30 years of work had taught me something Karen clearly didn't understand. When you fight someone who builds permanent systems for a living, you'd better make sure you're standing on solid ground. The following weekend, I went to Tony's Hardware, bought motion sensors, floodlights, and enough wire to light up a runway. If she wanted to drive through my property, fine. She'd get the full Broadway treatment. By Monday morning, my courtesy lighting system was finished. 8 motion-activated floods, 6 feet apart, triggered by anything bigger than a cat. At exactly 7:47, Karen's BMW came around the corner. The first sensor tripped. Boom! 8,000 lumens of white light turned her windshield into a miniature sun. She slammed her brakes so hard I could hear her tires cry. Tuesday, same thing. Only now she laid on her horn like the apocalypse had arrived. By Wednesday, I added a shiny new 24-hour surveillance sign. That's when she decided to declare war. Thursday night, my security app pinged, motion detected. I opened the feed, and there she was, dressed head to toe in black, kicking over my landscape lights like a furious child. What she didn't realize was that I'd built backup power just like in hospitals. When she cut one wire, the second system kicked in. Every stomp, every curse word, every glint of her expensive shoes, all caught on camera. Friday, she hit back with paperwork. An HOA complaint accusing me of excessive lighting and neighborhood disturbance. Signed, of course, by Treasurer Karen Whitmore. I called my insurance company instead. Then I stopped by Tony's again. "You're not the first," he said, shaking his head. "Half this neighborhood's fed up with her." He introduced me to Mrs. Patterson, 78, sharp as copper wire. She'd kept 2 years of notes on Karen's harassment. "She even tried to get my mailman fired," Mrs. Patterson said, sliding me a notebook. When the insurance investigator came by to check the damage, he crouched near my corner markers. "Mr. Thompson," he said, "you might want a new survey. These look off." Those 5 words changed everything. The next morning, I was down at the county clerk's office, surrounded by the smell of old paper and floor wax. The 2019 survey showed my lot ended 12 feet further east than the current stakes. The 2020 revision, signed by Derek Whitmore, claimed measurement correction. Translation, he'd moved my property line. When Pete, an old buddy turned surveyor, brought his crew out, he double-checked with lasers and shook his head. "Marcus, you've been robbed. You own 18 more feet than those fake markers show. That retaining wall of hers? 4 feet on your land. By that evening, orange flags dotted my corner like a minefield. Karen saw them and came storming over in heels sharp enough to draw blood. What is this? You can't just move property lines because you're paranoid." I handed her Pete's certified report. "According to this, you've been trespassing for months. And that wall, built illegally on my lot." Her face turned crimson. "My husband built this development. We know where every property line is." "Then you'll recognize his signature," I said, tapping the fraudulent survey. She leaned in close, hissing through perfect teeth. "You think you can come into our neighborhood and make demands? People who cross us find life gets very, very difficult." When she left, I called 2 numbers, my insurance legal team and a concrete contractor. Friday morning, I was sipping coffee when a white city truck rolled up my driveway. Out stepped Code Officer Dave Morrison, clipboard, mirrored sunglasses, and the dead-eyed look of a man who'd given up on fairness years ago. "Mr. Thompson," he said flatly, "we received an anonymous complaint about unpermitted electrical work creating safety hazards." "Anonymous," I repeated. "Let me guess, same handwriting as my last HOA complaint?" He ignored the sarcasm and gestured toward my motion lights. "Commercial-grade flood lamps, underground wiring, possible zoning violation. They're residential low voltage. Under 30 volts, no permit required." He pulled a tape measure like he was marking a crime scene. "Still has to come down." I watched him scribble a $1,200 citation and couldn't help asking, "You golf at Millbrook Country Club, right?" His hand paused mid-signature. "What's that got to do with anything?" "Just wondering if you play with Derek Whitmore." The color rose up his neck like a bad wire overheating. I knew I'd hit current. After he left, I called my old foreman, Big Jim, a man who knew every inspector in the county. "Yeah, Morrison's been cozy with developers," Jim said over the clang of hammers. "Word is he's drowning in debt, cutting corners for cash, so I filed a Freedom of Information Act request. 47 complaints in 18 months, all signed by Karen Whitmore. Garden ornaments, mailbox colors, holiday lights, petty harassment turned into paperwork warfare. And in 12 of those cases, Morrison was the responding officer. When I lined up the dates, the pattern was clear. The month Derek filed his corrected surveys was the same month Morrison fast-tracked his $1 million home addition. No delays, no inspections. The smell of corruption was thicker than burnt insulation. I called Tom Rodriguez, the city's chief electrical inspector, a straight shooter I'd worked with for years. He showed up the next afternoon with his own instruments, studied my setup, and frowned. "Marcus, this is better than half the commercial jobs I inspect. Whoever cited you either flunked code school or got paid to." Before I could thank him, his radio crackled. "Fire at Whitmore construction site. Suspected faulty wiring." The irony nearly made me choke on my coffee. That evening, Tom's official report cleared me completely and triggered a full investigation into Morrison's cozy relationship with local developers. For the first time, I felt like the current was flowing in my favor, but I wasn't done. Pete's final survey uncovered the full scale of Derek's land grab. 6 families, including Mrs. Patterson and the Garcias, had lost strips of property ranging from 8 to 20 feet. Derek's forged surveys had effectively stolen half an acre of prime suburban land. I met with real estate attorney Sarah Kim. She flipped through the documents, the buzz of fluorescent lights filling her office. "Mr. Thompson, this is systemic fraud. We're talking criminal charges, maybe even RICO if the city's involved." I smiled. "What if instead of suing them right away, I install a decorative concrete bollard? Strictly for aesthetics." Her eyes gleamed. "Completely legal, as long as it's inside your property line and meets code. Just make sure it's built to last." That night, tape measure in hand, I stood at the edge of my corner lot, watching where Karen's BMW tires bit into the soil each morning. I marked the exact spot of impact and did what any electrician would do: calculated. Vehicle speed, angle, force, ground resistance, physics in motion. One immovable post would solve everything. I called Miguel at Industrial Concrete Supply. "I need a decorative bollard," I said. "Residential install, commercial specs?" He laughed. "You planning to stop a tank?" "Just a BMW with bad manners." We drafted the specs together: 42 inches tall, 8 inches in diameter, reinforced steel core, 4,000 psi concrete granite cap, 5 feet deep, anchored below frost line. Permanent. Meanwhile, the neighborhood rallied. Mrs. Patterson formed the Millbrook Neighborhood Defense Committee. Tony's hardware store became headquarters. The Garcias offered security camera coverage. Landscaper Jim Martinez volunteered his crew. Even our mailman promised to keep an eye out for suspicious Karens. Friday morning, Miguel's mixer roared to life. The smell of wet cement filled the air. We dug 5 feet down, dropped rebar, and poured the foundation till it gleamed like liquid stone. When we capped it with bronze lettering, Maple Grove Memorial Garden, established 2024, it looked like a thoughtful landscaping accent. To anyone else, it was decorative. To me, it was destiny. All weekend, the concrete cured while my security cameras watched from every angle. Monday morning, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee, positioned myself by the window, and waited for 7:47. The BMW appeared on schedule, white paint gleaming in the sun. She didn't even slow down. The moment of impact was poetry. A metallic screech split the morning, followed by a thunderous crunch. Her passenger side wheel folded under like paper. Steam hissed from the hood. My bollard didn't budge an inch. I stepped onto the porch. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore. Lovely day, isn't it?" She climbed out, shaking with fury. "You did this on purpose. You set a trap, that?" I said, holding up Pete's survey. "That's a decorative garden feature, 8 inches inside my property line." Perfectly legal. She dialed 911, demanding I be arrested for vehicular entrapment. Officer Rodriguez showed up, same calm professionalism as before. He measured the distance. "Ma'am, this structure's on private property. You, however, were driving on it." Her jaw dropped. "I've been driving here for months." "Then you've been trespassing for months." Karen called Derek on speaker. "He destroyed my car." Derek's voice was cold. "Jesus, Karen, I'm in the middle of an investigation." "Handle it yourself." Then he hung up. The tow truck hauled her wreck away, leaving behind the smell of antifreeze and embarrassment. She glared at me one last time. This isn't over. But it already was. That night, our neighborhood threw an impromptu barbecue. Mrs. Patterson brought brownies. Even the mailman came. For the first time, laughter replaced tension. We toasted to the power of physics. I thought Karen would lick her wounds in silence. But 2 days later, Mrs. Patterson shuffled over with her phone gripped like a secret weapon. "Marcus, you need to see this." The first clip showed Karen pacing her driveway, barking into her phone. "I don't care what it costs. I want that thing gone by Friday and make it look like an accident." The next clip caught her voice lower, colder. "Fake utility work, gas leak, whatever. I'll handle the paperwork." I felt that familiar metallic taste of adrenaline. She was about to turn trespassing into outright fraud. The following morning, a yellow excavator clanked down Maple Grove like it owned the place. I called every utility company within 15 minutes. Gas, water, electric. Not one had a crew scheduled anywhere near my block. Through my window, I saw the operator hesitate, shifting uneasily in the cab. Then Karen strutted up in designer boots, perfume thick enough to taste. "Right there," she barked, pointing at my bollard. "Dig it out. Make it look like emergency work." That was my cue. 911, what's your emergency? "Unauthorized heavy machinery operating on my property," I said. "They're pretending to be utility workers." By the time the excavator bucket scraped concrete, 2 patrol cars had rolled up. Officer Martinez climbed out, already rubbing his temples. "Ma'am, do you have permits for this work?" Karen blinked innocently. "This is city-ordered emergency repair." "Which department?" She hesitated. Utilities?" He called it in on the radio. No permits, no emergency, no record, nothing. The operator, seeing his career about to implode, pulled out his phone. "She paid me 10 grand cash," he said. "Told me to fake a leak." He pressed play on his recording. Karen's voice. Crystal clear. "I don't care if it's illegal. Just make that thing disappear. Click. Handcuffs fraud. Conspiracy, impersonating utility authority, attempted bribery. The works." When Martinez mentioned Derek's name, the operator nodded. "He gave me fake work orders with city letterhead." They hauled Karen to the cruiser, screaming over her shoulder, "You have no idea what you've started." I knew exactly what I'd started. Accountability. That evening, a reporter, Janet Williams, knocked on my door, notebook in hand and that hungry look journalists get when they smell a Pulitzer. Within 48 hours, the story hit local news. HOA treasurer arrested in construction fraud scheme. By the next week's city council meeting, Millbrook Heights looked like a circus. 200 residents packed a hall meant for 50. Cameras flashed, people whispered, and the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry bees. Karen arrived 20 minutes late, sunglasses on, lawyers in tow. Her lead attorney, Richard Pimpton, radiated arrogance. "Chairman Mitchell," he began, "my client is the victim of a targeted harassment campaign by Mr. Thompson, who installed a hazardous obstacle with intent to cause property damage." Councilwoman Gonzalez raised an eyebrow. "You're saying a decorative feature on private land is a public hazard?" Pimpton smirked. "The location of that obstacle was specifically calculated to damage vehicles using the established traffic pattern through the area." A ripple went through the room. He'd just admitted that Karen's traffic pattern was trespassing. I stood. "May I respond?" Sarah Kim, my attorney, wheeled out a projector. Pete's certified survey lit the wall in brilliant color. The overlay of original versus falsified boundaries looked like a crime scene map. 6 families robbed of land. Derek's signature on every altered document. Gasps spread through the crowd. Then came the footage. Karen's BMW ripping across my lawn, her midnight vandalism spree, her bribe to the excavator. When her voice echoed through the speakers, "Make it look like an accident." People actually applauded. Councilmember Williams leaned forward. "Mrs. Whitmore, care to respond?" Karen stood, trembling with fury. "This is a conspiracy. A blue-collar mob trying to ruin successful people like us." "You're all jealous." Silence. Then someone in the back shouted, "Successful people don't steal land!" The room erupted. That's when a calm, authoritative voice spoke from the doorway. "Mrs. Whitmore!" A woman in a dark suit stepped forward, badge raised. "Patricia Rodriguez, FBI. We've been investigating construction fraud across 3 counties. Your company's surveys match our evidence exactly." Karen went pale. "Your husband," Agent Rodriguez continued, "has been altering boundary documents with the help of corrupt municipal officials. Estimated theft over $2 million, Council Chair." Mitchell slammed his gavel. "All citations against Mr. Thompson are dismissed. The council fully supports his property rights." The applause was thunderous. Karen's meltdown was almost operatic. "You'll all regret this," she shrieked as security escorted her out. 6 months later, justice had settled like fresh cement. Karen pled guilty to federal fraud, 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, $53,000 restitution. Derek got 3 years and lost his contractor's license forever. 17 municipal employees followed them down. So-called garden feature had accidentally kicked off one of the biggest corruption busts in state history. But the real reward wasn't headlines, it was peace. I used my $38,000 settlement to create the Millbrook Neighborhood Justice Fund, free legal help for anyone facing contractor scams or HOA abuse. Mrs. Patterson became our coordinator, running it with the precision of a bookkeeper and the passion of a crusader. Our first case recovered $22,000 for the Martinez family from a roofing fraud. Our second stopped a developer from stealing the school's playground lot. Word spread, Millbrook was no longer an easy mark. Sarah's health improved once the chaos ended. She started a small herb garden around the bollard, rosemary, thyme, lavender, so the air now smelled like peace instead of stress. Her laughter came back, lighter than it had been in years. Tony's hardware store turned into our informal community hub. The Garcias opened the Bollard Cafe, coffee, empanadas, and a framed photo of my concrete masterpiece on the wall. Even our mailman stops there daily just to swap stories. Every now and then, someone new moves into Karen's old McMansion. The latest couple has twin toddlers and good manners, but I noticed their fence creeping a few inches toward Mrs. Patterson's yard. She's already taking pictures, of course. Some lessons pass on naturally. The bollard still stands firm at the corner, polished granite cap gleaming in the sun, bronze plaque reading Millbrook Memorial to Community Justice, established 2024. Children ride bikes around it. Dogs sniff its base and neighbors wave as they pass. It's become a landmark, part warning, part victory monument. Each morning, I step onto the porch with my coffee and watch sunlight hit that unmovable pillar. I think about everything it cost and everything it gave back. 30 years as an electrician taught me one thing. If you build on solid foundations, concrete or principle, nothing and no one can knock you down, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't just pour cement, I built something that lasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe Alex Stories if you want to see more HOA Karen videos.